This is the Hiboy P6 electric bike. The whole design gives off a strong, sporty look, and the fat 26 by 4-inch tires stand out, not just for style, but for serious off-road performance. I've spent a good amount of time using this bike, so in this video, I want to break down my personal experience, covering both things I love and some honest thoughts on parts I wish could be better. Especially for people who are just getting started with electric bikes, start with the basics. Out of the box, the Hiboy P6 looks sharp and modern, with a mostly black aluminum frame and a pretty sturdy feel. I found the assembly straightforward, even for someone who doesn't have much mechanical experience. There are clear instructions, and most parts are already put together. If you're worried about setting it up yourself, I'd say don't stress, just take your time and follow the guide. One key feature I noticed right away is the 1000 watt peak motor. On the street, that means smooth, powerful acceleration. Hiboy advertises a max speed of 28 miles per hour, and from my experience, it can actually hit that, especially on flat roads. It's surprisingly quick for an e-bike, and it doesn't struggle when going up hills, which is super important if you live in an area with a lot of inclines like I do. For anybody wondering what the 1000 watt peak means, that's the highest amount of power the motor can deliver for short bursts, which is great for things like hill climbing or fast starts. Let's talk battery. The P6 comes with a 48-volt, 13-amp-hour battery. It's removable, which is one of my favorite things because it lets me charge the battery anywhere rather than having to bring the whole bike inside. On a full charge, I've managed to ride about 31 miles using only the throttle, which means I didn't pedal at all, just pure electric. If you use pedal assist, you can stretch that range out a lot further. Hiboy claims up to 62 miles, and while my experience was a little under that, maybe around 55 miles if I keep the assist low, it's still really impressive. For daily commuting or running errands around town, that's more than enough. Charging does take a while, around 6 or 7 hours for a full charge, so I usually plug it in overnight. The pedal assist is another key feature for me. There are 5 modes, which basically change how much the motor helps while you're pedaling. When I set it at 1 or 2, I get great battery life, and the ride feels more like a normal bicycle. Bump it up to 4 or 5, and the bike does most of the work for you. I found it helpful to switch assist levels depending on the terrain or how much exercise I wanted. There's also a trigger shifter for the 7-speed Shimano gears, which means you can adjust how hard or easy it is to pedal, even without any electric assist. The fat tires are worth mentioning, especially if you're not used to seeing them on bikes. The fat just means they're much wider than normal bike tires, about 4 inches across, which translates to a ton of grip and stability. I've ridden the P6 on city streets, gravel paths, and even taken it onto the beach. Honestly, the tires handle it all. They provide a comfortable, bouncy ride, and for me, it gives a lot of confidence, especially turning or going over bumps. The front hydraulic suspension fork is also a genuine plus. It soaks up potholes and rough terrain easily. You can adjust it too, which is handy if you want a stiffer or softer ride, depending on where you're going. Something small but useful. The P6 has front and rear lights. The headlight is nice and bright for riding at night, and you control it with a button up by the handlebar. It even has a horn built in, which is loud, but sometimes a bit too much if you're just trying to get someone's attention on a bike trail. I actually added a bell for most of my rides, since it's friendlier and less jarring. I'd recommend getting one, since it doesn't come standard and just makes urban biking less awkward. Another thing I've liked is the LCD display. It's simple to use. You just hold the button to turn it on, and you get all the basic info at a glance. Speed, battery level, odometer, and which assist mode you're in. What's cool is that you start to really track your usage over time. I've put over 180 miles on mine, and it's easy to see the distance right on the screen. If you like to keep your phone handy, there's an optional phone holder that mounts perfectly on the handlebar. It doesn't come with the bike, but I found it super helpful, especially for using GPS. For comfort, I was initially worried about the seat because it looked a little more mountain bike than cruiser. But turns out, it's pretty firm and comfortable for longer rides. The seat is fully adjustable, so whether you're 5'3" or over 6 feet tall, you'll find a good fit. I'm about 5'7" and had no issue adjusting seat height for my legs. I should mention the brakes, because for someone new to e-bikes or fat tire bikes, this is important. The P6 comes with mechanical disc brakes. They stop the bike fine under normal conditions, but when I was riding more aggressively or on big downhills, they did get noisy. I ended up upgrading both bikes in our home to hydraulic brakes. If you want quieter operation and stronger stopping power, especially if you plan on riding with lots of traffic or steep hills, I'd really consider upgrading. For everyday riding on flat ground or moderate hills, you'll probably be just fine with the stock setup though. The bike's weight is another thing to be aware of. At 65 pounds, it's definitely heavier than a basic road bike, but I find that weight gives me more stability, especially with the big tires. It's not light enough to pick up and carry upstairs easily. Loading it into a car is a bit of a workout, but for everyday city riding, it's something I got used to. One more honest point, the placement of the horn and light controls felt a little awkward at first. Sometimes I had to shift my grip to reach over and hit the buttons. It's not a big deal, but something to keep in mind, especially if you ride at night a lot. A few little upgrades added to mine that made a difference are the mirror I put on the handlebar, which is awesome for safety on city streets, and the bell as I mentioned earlier. The great thing about the P6 is that it's really easy to customize with these accessories, and you don't need special adapters or anything. From my experience, the Hiboy P6 makes for an awesome commuter or daily ride if you want a bike that looks great, handles a variety of surfaces, and goes fast when you need it. It really strikes a balance between sportiness and comfort. The fat tires make it stable and confidence-inspiring, and the battery life is more than enough for regular use. If you plan to use it mostly on roads or local trails, you're going to love how it feels. I'd recommend this for anyone who's looking for a rugged all-rounder that you can use for both fun and practical everyday trips, even if you're just getting started with e-bikes. In conclusion, after riding the Hiboy P6 for several months, I can say it's reliable, fun, and approachable, even if you haven't used an electric bike before. The small learning curve is worth it, especially when you realize how much ground you can cover and how comfortable the ride is. There are a few things I'd change, like the brakes and maybe the control layout. But overall, I've enjoyed every mile and would definitely choose it again for both commuting and weekend adventures. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe to my channel and leave a comment with your thoughts or questions about the Hiboy P6. Thank you for watching.